Thank you and good evening. It is wonderful to be here. My name is Aneesh Sohoni, and I am proud to serve as the Executive Director for Teach for America in Chicago and Northwest Indiana. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us this evening virtually. I have to admit, it feels a little uncanny to not to be able to see you all, but I'm really grateful to know that you're out there and thankful for your support. So next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So I thought I'd start by thanking my daughter Naya's co-teachers, Mrs. Andrade and Mrs. Correa. Naya really loves being able to join the 9 a.m. morning meetings and the opportunity to see her friends. And I know that the two of you are two of thousands of teachers who are doing incredible things as we transition to remote learning in these uncertain times. And I'm incredibly grateful. I've been looking at my social media streams recently, and I'm realizing that parents of school-age children are really starting to, if they didn't already, appreciate how important a teacher is. My friends are saying, gosh, teaching is so hard. Teachers should be paid $1 million. And I couldn't agree more. Our teachers are the people, our educators are the folks that really help to make sure that our students can live into a future filled with possibility. And as I've been talking to students and families, I know that they are crystal clear on what they want for their future. Recently, a student from Intrinsic Schools shared with us, I want to have a job that I enjoy, a job that is meaningful and allows me to be good financially. A parent at Chavez Multicultural Academic Center shared, I dream that my daughter has a better future than me. For our students and families living in the south and west side of Chicago, this path to the future was wrought with challenges prior to the pandemic. And now, given the inequity in our society, our families are deeply concerned. They're concerned about their finances. They're concerned that their children won't have access to educational opportunity. And they're understandably concerned. It is likely that students will start next school year 3 to 6 months behind in reading and math. Students who are already facing fear, anxiety, and trauma will only have their needs heightened given the impact of the pandemic. And given how uncertain the pandemic is, it is likely that students will experience rolling school closures or intermittent schooling next school year. All of these realities directly impact the extent to which our students can live a future filled with possibility. But I know that courageous and resilient leadership can put us back on track. And I know this because at Teach for America, we have been doing hard things for 20 years in Chicago and Northwest Indiana. In fact, 20 years ago, across the nation and in our local communities, there were many people who did not believe that all children had the potential to learn. But there were also many people, including those who signed up to do Teach for America as core members and now as alumni, who actually believed that when students were given access to opportunity, that all children could learn. And in the last few years, we've received validation of this effort and this belief. Chicago students are leading the country in reading and math growth. 80% of students are graduating from high school every year, an all-time high. And more students than ever before are enrolling in college and attending some sort of post-secondary institution. This work has been the work of many organizations and many partners. And I am proud to say that Teach for America has played such a critical role. For 20 years here in Chicago and Northwest Indiana, we have been recruiting promising and diverse talent to make a lifelong commitment to students that begins with teaching for at least 2 years in a low-income classroom. As an organization, we then support them to make extraordinary progress and achieve great things with their students. We also help our young leaders think about how they can continue on their impact, and then we support them as they work as teachers, school leaders, nonprofit professionals, public sector leaders, and more. And in fact, here in our Chicago, Northwest Indiana community, we have 3,400 talented leaders doing this incredible work. And this includes many people who began their time with us who didn't necessarily think they would make a career in education. In fact, only 1 in 5 people began their time with us thinking they'd make a career in education. And yet, on the back end, 67% remain working in education, and 85% remain working with low-income students and families. This includes 1,200 teachers who are making above average progress with their students, 290 school leaders, including principals of 8 of the 10 schools with the largest SAT growth in Chicago, and nearly 600 nonprofit and public sector professionals. So in this moment, of course, Teach for America is doubling down. We're betting on our leaders who have demonstrated incredible work, because we know that courageous and resilient leadership is as important now as it was 20 years ago when we first came. That's why we will continue to bring in 200 of these leaders into our Chicago Northwest Indiana network every year. We will support them to support their students and the students' needs around academics, social and emotional learning, and remote learning. We will also make sure we connect our core members and our alumni to one another and to other partner organizations. Because in moments like now that are uncertain and where we all feel so isolated, community and connectivity matter more than ever. I know we will show that in uncertain moments, there is nothing uncertain about how our network of leaders will respond with courage, with resilience, and with resolve. In 2030, our Chicago Northwest Indiana network will be full of leaders, 5,400 leaders. We'll still be growing, and we'll be impacting 200,000 students every single day. In 2030, many of our students will be entering the workforce. And the question that has been on my heart and on my mind these days is whether or not we will deliver on the educational promise so that they can live the life that they want and the future that they want. I know that all of us who are here today collectively have the opportunity to make sure that the answer to that question is yes. Teachers, school leaders, educators of all types, civic leaders, and philanthropists, we can all come together to create a different future and make sure our students have a life filled with possibility. So thank you so much for joining tonight. And speaking of civic leadership, I'm so excited to welcome now to our virtual stage, Meg Whitman. Meg is currently the CEO of Quibi, and throughout her career has held executive level positions at companies like Procter & Gamble, Bain & Company, eBay, and Hewlett-Packard Company. She is Teach for America's national board chair and plays an important role in the work that we do. She's joining us tonight to share her perspectives on the role that Teach for America can play locally and nationally, given the current context. Thank you for joining us, Meg, especially in this current moment where I know you have so much going on at Quibi.
Well, thanks so much, Aneesh, and I am delighted to be with all of you tonight and to help support the work of Teach for America in Chicago and Northwest Indiana. So, boy, and I'm also impressed by your innovative spirit to try to do your gala event online. So I think it's going to be great, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. So as Aneesh mentioned, I am the National Board Chair for Teach for America, and I have had a long, long passion for education. I have always believed that a great K-12 education was the most important thing we could do as a country. It's the great equalizer of opportunities and a huge driver of our economy. And I can say as a CEO, I also know it's crucial for our economy and our democracy to have every generation of children educated to the greatest extent possible. So when I had to decide what philanthropy I would support, what I would try to invest my time and energy in, I immediately said K-12 education, and then surveyed the landscape and ultimately settled on Teach for America, because I think Teach for America has actually done more for public education in this country than any other organization. However, we all know that there is more work to do. You know, in our country today, only half of the kids growing up in our lowest income communities will graduate from high school, and only 1/10 will graduate from college by the age of 24. And we all know that an inadequate education leads to diminished opportunities. Over a lifetime, individuals with a bachelor's degree make 84% more than those with only a high school degree, and those with a graduate degree or with a college degree are more likely to have access to the civic, political, and social networks that influence their lives. And then this inequity, starting with education, leads to a weaker nation, lower economic growth, higher crime, and a more fragile democracy. And so it's, as I said, why I have chosen to invest my time and philanthropy on educational equity and access. And we're seeing progress. Aneesh mentioned some of these statistics. Over the past 30 years, we have seen high school graduation rates increase meaningfully, and proficiency in both math and reading progress significantly. And in my opinion, TFA is an absolutely essential part of what has been achieved here. From my time as a CEO, I'm a deep believer in talent and leadership. And what Teach for America at its core does is attract the very best and brightest students, give them experience doing something they probably never dreamed they would do. And then they fall in love with their kids. They understand that every child can learn. And we end up attracting a whole cohort of talent that might never have ended up in education were it not for Teach for America. So now I think about where we are today and this remarkable time in which we live, an unprecedented time with COVID-19. And everything that I see out there just tells me how important it is to have Teach for America do what we can to lead our way through this COVID pandemic. You can see how negatively it's impacting our country's lowest income communities and those kids. And it's great to see, I mean, it's super inspiring to see what our core members and alumni are doing across the country to help these children. They're continuing to connect students with leaderships, with video and phone calls. They are completing the forward planning of lessons so that these children can continue to work and then get back into action when school picks up. They are ensuring that students have access to internet. I've heard stories of our teachers and core members going to actually students' housing and setting up an internet connection with a laptop. And they're also creating activities for parents to do with their children at home and making online work accessible for students with all kinds of diverse learning needs. So the regional team in your area continues to support your local students by one-on-one coaching sessions, by being there for these kids. And I think it's super important. So listen, we're responsible for uplifting and supporting our 62,000 core members and alumni across the country and providing resources to all of our students. So I think you should be really proud of what the alumni and core members are doing in your region. They're leading the way nationally on innovation and serving these underserved communities. So many of you have supported Teach for America through your advocacy, through your advice, through your funds. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. It matters now more than ever. For those of you who are new, I ask you to think about Teach for America as a place that really needs your help now as we go to work for the most vulnerable among us, which are the young children in underserved and low-income communities. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We can't be more pleased that you're here to celebrate the work of the Chicago, Northwest Indiana region, but also, take on the challenges of what's ahead of us. And, I hope everyone feels a call to action. I know I do, that this is a really tough time for many, many people. And this is a time when TFA can really shine. So thank you so much for joining us. And Aneesh, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Meg, again, for joining us, for your words of support, your words of wisdom and encouragement. I am now excited to move the conversation to a discussion with two of our alumni. They are the winners of our awards, Justin Pitts and Jennifer Dixon. Justin Pitts won our 2020 Francis and Elliot Lehman Excellence in Teaching Award. Justin teaches Algebra 2 and AP Physics at Roe Clark Math and Science Academy. 2 subjects, by the way, in which I did not do well. My parents can tell you that much. And there he strives to empower his students as critical thinkers, enabling them to leverage their math education to drive change in their communities and beyond. And Jennifer Dixon, the recipient of the 2020 Zell Family Excellence in School Leadership Award. Jennifer is the principal at Palmer Elementary School, where, according to Stanford University research, learning rates are 28% higher than schools with students from similar socioeconomic backgrounds. Justin and Jennifer, welcome. And to get us started, we decided to enlist some friends ahead of time to share more about the impact that you've had. We asked some of your students, parents, and colleagues to share a little bit about why you are amazing educators. So let's take a look.
She is caring and cares about her students and teachers and everybody around her. She does a great job of being a principal, and I appreciate her being at Palmer.
Today, as superintendent, when I look for principals who I will put in some of our schools, I think of you. You are the standard for excellence that every principal should be.
She worked very, very closely with us, communicated very closely with us when we were trying to figure out where we wanted to send our son to school. We recently moved to the area. We explored a lot of options as to where he could go, where he would get the best support, where the best teachers, and most importantly, where the best school leadership. And throughout the entire process, Principal Dixon answered every single question at any time, night or day, and really assured us that she would be there in addition to her school staff in order to support Aviv when he went to school.
What I like about you, Miss Dixon, is you're always confident, you always carry pride, you're always positive, and you never ever give up. That's what I see in you all the time. You're always happy.
You actually helped me mature a lot over the past 3 years in high school. When I first met you my freshman year, I wasn't as mature as I was now. I appreciate everything you have taught me as a student and as a young man.
You don't just teach, you care about the students, and the way you teach them is it shows that you want them to be successful in life.
I was fortunate enough to see that every day during the summer training, not only in our interactions, but in the meetings that he ran, in the interactions he had with our students. And I look back at those moments and I reflect on them, and I try to be a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more caring, a little bit more understanding, and that's thanks to Justin.
You comfort me in the classroom, which helped me learn. Because in some classrooms, I get lost in the shuffle. But you will if you see I'm getting lost, you'll help me out.
You taught us how to advocate for ourselves. When we need help, just don't sit back and then just think everything will just fall in place. You taught us to if we need help to go out and get it.
When the class have our little personal talks about us being students and growing up in Chicago and how it's going to affect us in a later life, you're that type of teacher that is able to initiate that conversation, and it keeps us on our toes because we know that we're this part of this group that doesn't get the same opportunities or as much opportunities as other people. So we know how things are going down, but it's different when we're able to have that type of conversation in a classroom environment.
Wow. So Justin, Jennifer, we did not show you that video ahead of time. I've seen it a couple times. I see both of you emotional. I get emotional when I watch it. Jennifer, Sophia, she told us what she sees in you, that you're a role model to her as a principal, and that's just so powerful. Justin, I think about what Sir Kenneth said, how you don't let him get lost in the shuffle. That's incredible, because sometimes too many of our students get lost in the shuffle. And so my sincere gratitude to both of you for everything you do for your students. I've been thinking a lot about this moment in time and how hard the last 6 weeks must have been for the two of you. So Jennifer, I'll start with you. Just bring us into the last 6 weeks. What's your experience been like?
Thank you. I can really remember this mix of kind of frantic planning and like complete action mode. But the teachers at Palmer worked like this fine-tuned machine to get packets ready and help all the children collect their belongings. We went through kind of waves after that, parents, students, teachers, and staff, all experiencing different phases of grief and anxiety, really, over the past few weeks. But since it's began, I think a lot about what we've done since then. And what we've done is our best. And we've worked hard to support our families and students. Over 300 Chromebooks were distributed to our students. Over 7,000 meals were prepared and delivered by our super dedicated lunchroom staff, and security guards and our custodians have really worked hard to clean the school from top to bottom. The Palmer teachers jumped right into remote learning with so much grace, and right now we have 600 students speaking over 20 languages enrolled in their remote learning for the year, which is really impressive. The teachers are working tirelessly for incredibly long hours, and at the same time, they have this deep sense of loss for what we've all kind of given up in this transition. When I walk around the school, because I do go back into school every day, their classrooms are kind of frozen in these moments in time. The date is still, I think, March 16th. The date is still written on all of their chalkboards. But we're missing our students greatly, but we have a saying at Palmer, and it's Palmer United as One. And I really think that it's in this time that we're demonstrating the true meaning of that saying.
Thanks, Jennifer. You shared a lot about the experience, both the emotions and the work you're doing. And I just, it's hard to put yourself in that place, but thank you. And thanks to your team for everything you do to navigate this time. Justin, how about you?
Yeah, it has been an emotional roller coaster. I would be lying if I say that it hadn't. Anyone that knows me knows that I have like a deep love for my kids. And getting to see them on that video was really, really amazing. So thank you for that. I'm a senior advisor to a group of 12 boys. I call them the Pitts Pumpkin Patch, or the Patch for short. And senior year at Roe Clark is a really beautiful time. You've worked so hard for 4 years, and you have grad night at Six Flags, and you have senior camp, and you have prom, and you have graduation. And my advisory is my heart and soul. I miss them deeply every single day. We do group FaceTimes though, but it feels like they've been robbed of an experience that so many of them would cherish. I'm so thankful to work at Roe Clark. I work amongst incredible educators, so many Teach for America alumni and core members who are so deeply passionate about our mission. Without them, this work wouldn't be possible. And I think, honestly, without them, I wouldn't be here today.
Thanks, Justin. And thank you both for sharing so vulnerably and openly about what's hard about this moment, and in addition to everything you're doing. Justin, you were getting at this just now, talking a little bit about the community of Teach for America core members and alumni that you get to work with.
Yeah.
Of course, no one could predict what we are all going through right now, but we've been doing hard things, as I mentioned earlier, for a long time, long before this pandemic. What about your Teach for America experience would you say most prepared you for how you lead?
Yeah, I would definitely say Institute. And for those who are on the call who don't know what Institute is, it's the summer before you become a core member and you're training. And probably when I said Institute, I'm sure a lot of people had shivers just now when they heard that word again. It feels most relevant because similar to Institute, you're both leading and following blindly. You wake up some days and you don't know what day it is actually. But you are amongst people who care so much about kids and people who are so devoted and dedicated to to hard work. You don't know which way's up, which way's down. And I think that's why it feels most relevant to now. We're all in this together, just like Institute. We know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we also know that the path to that light is getting kids to succeed and getting them prepared to overcome this obstacle.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate the walk down memory lane. Institute, is this 24/7 immersion into what it means to be prepared to be a teacher. And I heard you really say the ability to demonstrate resilience in moments of challenge have really helped you out. Jennifer, what would you say?
Yeah, if I think back to my first couple years of teaching, I'm not quite sure I was the best teacher I could have possibly been. It was extraordinarily difficult. And what I remember about it, though, is just coming back each and every day. And I remember this feeling that I had of never giving up. I kind of refused. I refused to give up on my students. I refused to give up on their community. And so I would come back each and every day, no matter how hard the previous day was. And I would reinvent whatever I was doing to kind of make it fit the situation. I think a lot of those skills make a lot of sense right now. The ability to get up every day, despite any new challenges that you're facing, and figure out what you're going to do today to just make it work for kids, because they matter and we matter to them. And so I think really that is how it kind of translates.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you both. And Jennifer, I think this idea that we will hold the highest of expectations for our students, and we believe so deeply in them, really resonates. So one more question for you both. Justin, we'll start with you. I think we're looking at you and your students here on the screen. When I look at our students, when I think about how incredible you both are and all our educators are, I can't help but actually also think there is some hope in the future in this very challenging time. What hope do you have for the future and for your students?
Yeah, I think the picture you showed was actually perfect, because something I've been thinking about recently is teaching high school. One of the experience is when a kid comes back and pops in my room after they've graduated and tells me that they're transferring back home. And I think right now, the message that I'm trying to convey to my senior students, especially to my advisory, is use this time to really understand what it means to take educational ownership. And when they're away at school and they're hundreds or thousands of miles away and they're not able to see their friends every day, or they go to 2 classes and they have all this time to figure it out with, that really gives me hope for right now.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, I think I love the idea that maybe what we're experiencing now is something that students were going to experience in a different way when they're in college, and it's maybe the preparing ground for them. I appreciate that perspective. Jennifer, what about you?
Thanks. I think that the Palmer community will come out of this stronger than ever. I know that it's in these times of adversity that you kind of learn the limits of what you're able to accomplish. And I think at Palmer, we've already shattered the notion of any boundaries around what's possible for our kids. We're genuinely worried, as many educators are right now, about the lack of face-to-face instruction, and we know that our students are missing out on it. But I can really say this wholeheartedly, that at Palmer, we've proven this year after year that we know what we need to do to move our students forward towards their goals, no matter what the obstacle is. And we'll do it with love and with grace and with a continued tending. I think this is super important right now to our students' social emotional development. And I think coming back together after this will mean focusing on just that, our students' emotional well-being, as well as the emotional well-being of our teachers, our staff, and our families. It'll be a time of healing, and resilience is really going to guide us. I know that we're going to rise up again, and as always, we're going to show our students how capable and amazing they really are.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Justin. You both are amazing, and in large part, I think you both are amazing because you believe so much in your students and you really lean into them and invest in them. Thank you for being with us tonight, and thank you for taking the time, especially now, given everything else you're managing. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So now, as a part of continuing to honor our 20 years of impact here, we wanted to bring back an old friend who was a part of the early years of our region. John White, a 1999 Teach for America alum, served as executive director of the same role I'm in now back in 2005 to 2007 here in Chicago. These years were critical to establishing our work and credibility as an organization. After, John went on to serve as a superintendent of the Louisiana Recovery School District and recently ended an 8-year tenure as Louisiana State Superintendent of Education. He was the longest serving state education chief in the nation and achieved remarkable results for his students. I'm thrilled to welcome him here tonight to share his reflections on this current moment in time, given his experience.
Well, thank you, Aneesh, and it's great to be back. Congratulations to Teach for America Chicago, Northwest Indiana. I have a lot of great friends, hopefully some of them on the line, still back in Chicago, and I'm honored to be here with all of you this evening. Also, congratulations to Jennifer and Justin and the incredible things that you and so many core members and alumni do in Chicago. I wanted to just first acknowledge this moment as I sit here in New Orleans. This is a tough time for our country. It's a tough time to be in public service. It's a tough time to be in public education. It's a tough time first because, as Jennifer and Justin so eloquently gave voice to, it's even hard day to day just to stand up an education system, and that's a demoralizing thing in a way unto itself. But it's also challenging because we know that just around the corner, when we get back face to face with our kids, we're going to have a realization that probably we all know top of mind already, and that is that our kids have lost something very deep. They've lost something emotionally, they've lost something in their community, they've lost something intellectually and academically, and it's our job to give it back to them. We also know that this year's graduating class, as Justin gave voice to, is more challenged to transition in a coherent and thoughtful way to the next step of life than perhaps any in a generation. And that's going to pose challenges for them in their individual futures and for our society and for our economy and its future. I actually think we can come out of all of this a better education system than we went into it. I think we can come out of it better if we begin to be candid with ourselves and recognize that some of the things that we're seeing have existed for generations. And maybe this crisis is a moment to begin to understand them better. Maybe for those of us who can pay for our own kids' childcare, we now understand better the incredible burden and necessity that is childcare for all working families, for all families in this country. Perhaps we can better understand the challenge of just having a good curriculum and the importance of having a good curriculum and of school systems and school leaders and states actually assuring every family in this country that they can validate that they have a high quality curriculum with which to teach your child every day. And it's high time that we realize that every time we graduate, and we do graduate more and more kids every year, but to some degree, we have no idea what happens to the kids who graduate, especially those who aren't immediately bound for four-year colleges where they can safely pay and socialize. That too many kids are taking on debt and dropping out of school. Too many kids don't even go to school or have a secure path to a good first job in the first place. And that we do have a dropout crisis still in America. It just happens to be among many high school graduates. We can use this moment to understand those crises that have been latent in our education system for generations, but we can only do it if there's real leadership at work in this country. That's leadership at the school level, leadership at the school district level, leadership at the state level, leadership in our elected officials, leadership in the commercial environment, and in our civic and philanthropic leaders. There is simply no way that we're going to go from this public health crisis to a better moment over time, educationally and otherwise, without fantastic leadership. And so I tell you, as the longtime leader of a government agency, as a participant in fabulous public service environments like working for Michael Bloomberg in New York City, that the necessity of Teach for America has never been higher. It has never been more important than the public servants of this country and the public educators of this country be called to the highest calling that there is, which is to serve this country. Teach for America is the nation's preeminent vehicle for public leadership development and for leadership in public education. I know because when I was state superintendent, 2/3 of my leadership team was alumni of Teach for America, and we were making progress in one of the nation's most poorly educated state, faster than virtually any other state in America. I'm greatly proud to call myself an alum. I'm very grateful to all of you who are on the call this evening to consider your commitment to Teach for America. I hope you'll double down on your commitment to Teach for America, especially in this moment. Chicago needs it, Louisiana needs it, and our country needs it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, John, for your remarks and your work in service of students and families. My name is Steve Ritchie, and I'm honored to serve as the Regional Board Chair for Teach for America, Chicago, Northwest Indiana. I'd like to start by commending the TFA staff for the terrific event this evening and for the great week of content that they put together. To pivot from a live event to this virtual format in about a month's time was not easy, but I'm very confident that this event will become a model for other organizations to follow. I'd also like to thank all the TFA core members and alumni in our region, including the many of you who are joining us tonight, for the incredible work that you were doing during this extraordinary time. We heard from Jennifer and Justin what they're doing, but everyone should know that there are countless others out there doing the same things. The students that they reach are extremely fortunate to have you in their corner, and please know that your efforts are making a difference. One reason that I joined the TFA Regional Board nearly 10 years ago and just recently became its chair is that, like John, I also believe in TFA's ability to identify and develop leaders who can help transform our education system so that it can adequately prepare all in our society for economic success. I haven't been disappointed. In my time with TFA, I've been constantly inspired by people like Justin, Jennifer, and John, leaders who have made a lifelong commitment to expanding opportunity and access for all children inside and outside the classroom. Teach for America and its network have made a lasting impact on Chicago and Northwest Indiana students over the past 20 years. The time, energy, and commitment of every member of the TFA community, including teachers, school leaders, education reform organization leaders, and others, have caused that impact. At this critical juncture, TFA's growing network in Chicago, Northwest Indiana is a key source of talented and dedicated individuals who, day in and day out, lead with courage, conviction, and a commitment to ensuring that one day all children in our community will have the opportunity to attain an excellent education. It's my first year as the Regional Board Chair, but it's also the 20th anniversary of TFA in Chicago and Northwest Indiana. Therefore, I'd like to highlight the extraordinary contributions of the board chairs who preceded me, Paul Finnegan, Mike Kaiser, and John Harris. Their leadership has been integral to the success of Teach for America and countless other organizations throughout the region. And they've demonstrated that leadership again this week by expanding the Catalyze Fund matching opportunity. They will match every gift made this week, dollar for dollar, including those made this evening, up to $200,000. Thanks to Paul, Mike, and John for their unwavering support of Teach for America. As we close out our evening together, we ask you to step up to this challenge and make a gift to Teach for America. Every dollar raised tonight and through this week's One Week for One Day campaign will help Teach for America recruit and develop promising young leaders, people like Justin, Jennifer, and John, to teach in low-income schools and support their impact throughout their careers. We recognize that we're in unprecedented times and that there are many, many demands on your resources. But as you've heard from John and others, the needs of our students have only increased as a result of this crisis in ways that most of us can't even imagine. So we very much appreciate any support you can offer. Following the instructions on the screen, please send a text message to 41444. Type in TFA CHI, the amount you're pledging, and your name. Thanks so much for your support.
Thank you, Steve. And as Steve noted, you can follow the instructions on your screen to make a pledge and support. I'll close by sharing that at a moment in time when things can feel so challenging in our country, what keeps me hopeful is the human spirit. The power of what we can do collectively as teachers, school leaders, nonprofit leaders, educators, civic leaders, philanthropists, and more. Paul, Mike, and John, thank you for your past leadership on our board as board chairs. Thank you for making this matching commitment this week. We're incredibly grateful. If you're interested in seeing how we're doing tonight, we'll continue to have the instructions on the screen and move over to show soon how much we've raised and how many people have contributed. But until then, and until we're able to see each other and be in the same room again, I hope everyone stays safe, stays well, and has a good night.